Oh yeah.
Mayor Taylor,
Here.
Councilmember Redina,
Here.
Councilmember Briggs, here, Councilmember Robinson,
Here.
Councilmember Iyer, absent. We have a quorum.
And a motion please to approve the agenda. Moved by Briggs Regina. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor? Opposed? The change is approved. And motion please to approve the minutes. Moved by Watson Regina. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? The minutes are approved. Unfinished business.
Yes, it's time, actually a little late, but it's time for the annual performance review process. I'm proposing some changes this year. First, in terms of the vendor that would be conducting it. So on the screen are two representatives from MGT. They are a national executive search firm and consulting firm, and they do this kind of thing in cities. They are poised to conduct the survey portion of the process. Process itself is really not changing. It's just who's doing it is changing. Some of the questions would be different, but the process will still entail survey going to all of my direct reports, survey going to each of the council members, and survey going to the city attorney, who's my peer. And so, Charlene, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe you could talk to the committee about timeline and when you would be ready to go and how that would work.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I'm Charlene Stevens. I'm a vice president with Human Capital for MGT, and I've been with the firm since 2019. Prior to that, I had a long career in local government as well. So in terms of the timing end of the survey, and I also want to recognize my colleague, Ashley Eccles, who is with me today, and she is going to assist in this. As the city administrators noted, we haven't made a dramatic changes to the questions and the process. So we do have the surveys prepared to go, pending any final edits from the city, from the mayor and council or the administration committee. And then we're prepared actually to administer the survey as early as, Thursday, Friday of this week, to send out those links pending, the ability on the city's part to provide us the emails and the information that we need to do that. We propose to have the survey available for approximately a 2-week period. So completing it, if it were sent out at the latest by Friday, would give people till December 26th to complete the survey, because they are relatively short. And then we feel that gives us sufficient time to gather the information and put together a report and have that back to the committee in early January for your January scheduled meeting. And we'd be happy to discuss, the minor changes that we made to some of the questions as well.
So I'll take this moment just to briefly introduce myself and share a couple of those changes. So again, my name is Ashley Eccles. I'm a senior consultant with MGT. I've been with MGT for approximately 2 years. Prior to that, I worked in local government for about a decade, and I'm based in the Chicagoland area. And so overall, our understanding was that the general framework of your evaluation process has worked pretty well in the past. So again, we did take an opportunity to take a deep look at it and make a couple areas that for suggestions that we wanted to refine a tad. So we tailored it a bit to add a couple more open-ended questions. That way there's a mechanism for some additional feedback. And so we recommend written feedback or justification if, a criteria was rated as strongly agree, strongly disagree, or disagree, so that there's, again, a mechanism to capture a little bit more information in the hopes that that will be, constructive feedback. So if, the administrator is performing exceptionally well, that's being captured. And if alternatively there's areas for improvement, that we have a better understanding of where those suggestions are coming from. We also modified one of the questions to evaluate not only the city administrator's ability to hold staff accountable, but also himself. And then lastly, we added an NA category. So that way, if an evaluator is unsure or believes that they don't have enough information or insight into the city administrator's performance in that particular area, that, you know, it wouldn't be factored into their total evaluation score. So are there any questions about those changes?
I have a question around the timing. It seems perhaps problematic to have a December 26th deadline. And so I wonder if there's any reason to not kind of like extend that through the calendar year, or if from a staff perspective, you feel like that wouldn't make much of a difference, or by giving people a little bit of extra time around the holidays to complete things.
I don't have any opposition to that. The staff is poised to get it. So for them, it'll be likely completed pretty quickly before some of them leave. But, you know, I don't know how council will be moving about. If you want it extended for council members, that can sometimes be factored in.
Just some process questions, and I appreciate that. I think the shift in vendor, you know, the different valuation firm made some sense. In terms of how the process has worked in the past, they've had some confusion where it's been one combined survey in the past, and it's gone to all kind of three parties, I think, and that can be making the questions in a slightly different. Will this be independent sort of surveys, and what will the follow-up mechanism look like to ensure kind of high participation?
Yes, first of all, yes, we are proposing them to be 3 different surveys, and such so that you won't have to scroll through and see questions that don't apply to you as well. So they would be 3 different surveys, 3 different links. They would be sent individually to each group in that way, and each individual in the group. And then we will track those responses and kind of, you know, give people, you know, initially 5 days, and then if we don't get a response, then we will follow up, you know, kind of on a every 2 days and such, as we try to get that finalized with the survey and letting people know the close date. So we kind of give an initial 5-day window, and then we begin our follow-up with individuals.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I think a slightly longer time period collecting results, especially with people, I assume that folks are going to take a vacation too, and, you know, just getting some extra time to get those survey responses in. So I guess the longer you have, sometimes the more you delay. So, you know, maybe that's a bad idea. Yeah, and honestly, I suppose I appreciate that there's been some kind of tweaking of the questions. I don't think we've seen the questions since last year. Is that right, or did I miss them? Okay. You know, I think the addition of not applicable makes sense, because I'm having some challenges. I don't know if there's any merit for review, if we're shifting the process for reviewing this one more time, if we wanted to make any changes, or if everybody's memory of them is.
All those any complications myself, but
Yeah, I think my recollection was, because of the combined survey, there became a point at which I started questions that weren't for me, as opposed to, and then I was like, oh wait, I need to go back. These aren't. So I think the ones that were in our section made sense, if I recall.
Yeah.
Very basic question. This evaluation is used to help us determine the salary, which comes in the last meeting of the calendar year, or to start the fiscal year, but. Okay, whatever.
it tends to just roll in whenever it rolls in.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, I forget exactly the cadence of last year's versus this year's, but, you know, it'll,
Okay, so this becomes hard, we gotta get it done before,
no.
okay, sorry, that's.
Anything else from committee?
Do you want to see the questions? Is that
I was kind of putting that out as a general, like, was there any, if there's not a general desire to review, then that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would maybe ask the folks who will be administering it for us, as you were kind of going through it, based on your experience, if these are things you do elsewhere, are there questions that perhaps we weren't asking that you recommend that we should, or vice versa?
Again, as we reviewed it, we didn't see the need to make dramatic changes. I think we made more changes to how the feedback was coming in so that it could be a little bit more, there's a little bit more feedback that's asked for. So instead of kind of just hitting a rating of, 5 or 2 or 3, giving a little bit more feedback so that can be a little bit more constructive and a little bit more productive for the city administrator. And then we did add, again, to kind of help along that line, we added kind of 2 more open-ended questions, and I'll just share kind of what we added is, what constructive advice or ideas can you offer the city administrator to enhance their performance or service delivery? So, what, again, from the local perspective, as well as we're asking that question from the direct reports, the leadership team. And then, kind of throughout the year, understanding that city administrators handle many projects, many initiatives, and many issues, kind of what went well, and sort of so you can help identify what are the strengths of the city administrator. So we added those to give, again, I think, opportunities for the city administrator to kind of incorporate that feedback into their ongoing work as well. And then we added, and then Ashley had mentioned, we added in the direct report, there's some questions about holding staff accountable. What we felt it was also important to get an understanding of how does the city administrator reflect their own accountability? How do they hold themselves accountable? Do they demonstrate the behaviors that they're asking staff to also demonstrate and be measured by?
Please.
Just one thing. In the past, we have had issues with reminders and requests to council members to fill this out, going to spam or, another part of our inbox. And that has led to some council members not participating in it, not seeing it getting buried by that's a whole other issue that's on the agenda, frankly, for today. If you could make a point to reach out individually to council members if they haven't responded, because it's most likely because they just didn't see it, because of the antiquities of our system currently, that'd be great.
We absolutely can do that. I think, we're also prepared to work with Ms. Higgins on just, making sure that she'll be sending out some advance notice that the survey will be coming out, who it will be coming from. In this case, it'll be Ashley who will be distributing the survey, so that kind of prepares people in advance to be looking for it as well. But then we'll certainly follow up individually with mayor and council, as well as the direct reports and staff members too, because we do, think it's going to be more helpful to everyone, of course, if the feedback is if everyone participates in the survey.
Anything else? Thanks a ton.
All right.
Anything else on this?
No.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep, see ya.
Bye.
Chief,
Hello, everyone.
it's all you.
Okay. Going to Deputy Chief McGuire here because he's going to be helping lead some of the efforts that we have. So we just want to kind of give you a brief overview of where we're at and what we'll be doing, and then open things up to any questions. So I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief McGuire.
I think as everyone here knows, in the later part of the fall, Department leadership took an in-depth look at some of the concerns being brought forward, reference issues downtown, mostly quality of life, some crime issues. And as we started looking into that, we saw that the main areas of concern were Main Street, State Street, Southview, and Carytown. And so we kind of want to talk a little about what our response that we developed is to that. And the main thing that people in the community are going to see is what we call the downtown response team. a group of 4 officers, on patrol, on foot or on bike, who are dedicated just to a very small area downtown, getting to know, people that work with play downtown, business owners, and dedicated just to that area and the problems, not only criminal, but quality of life as well. One of the things they developed, we can pass it around, is a little magnet, for business owners. It's got a QR code on it. And the QR code allows, anyone downtown to report an issue that is non-emergent that could be addressed by the downtown response. So they don't need to call 911. They could instead simply just scan this, and it goes directly to those 4 officers so that they can have an appropriate response. One of the other things I think is very important that going forward, we're going to see is the downtown response team will be working directly with CRT, our crisis intervention trained people, in order to, as well as support connections, in order to make sure people that need services that are outside what we can provide as police are connected with those services. Because one of the first things we did was develop a list of 10 people. We're trying to be evidence-based and data-driven. So we were able to identify a list of 10 people with whom we interact the most, and as well as support connections interacts with, and try and see what we can do to help those people. So as we move forward, working with CIT, we will try and directly work with those top 10 folks, as well as top 10 locations where things are reported. And we've already seen in the first month we've been doing this, we've seen some really good successes with some of the people that we've been able to help out. Wish you could provide names and more details. Obviously, we can't, but we have found that to be very successful, and partnering up with supported connections and others. One of the things that we've done as well, we have established a microbeat. We're calling it Edward Beat, and I will pass these maps around. You can take one and pass it around. So previously, the city is divided into 4 patrol beat areas. We developed this or Edward Beat, and it's basically the UA. And it's going to comprise just the downtown area to really focus our efforts on that. Those DRT officers are going to spend their time only in that Edward Beat, so they're focusing on those issues downtown. One of the other things they did, I think you all have at your seat, a 2-sided laminated sheet. The one side looks like this. Is a QR code on that side of the pamphlet we're handing out to members of the community, and especially folks that we come across that may need resources. It's got a list of resources and how to connect. Obviously, we're doing more than just give the pamphlet, but that is in addition to us literally making connections, speaking with them, sometimes putting them in touch directly. But that's a resource to have as well. On the opposite side of this, led throughout the entire department, not just patrol officers, not just DRT, but our detective bureau, our community standards officers, our traffic folks. We brought in outside experts to lead them, instruct them in a problem solving method. We're instructing the SARA model of scan, analyze, respond, and assess. And to that point, we gave every single officer's training, and then ended with this balanced approach for not only responsive ways to address crime and quality of life, but also preventative ways to address those same issues. So while this is a 2-sided document, there are 2 separate documents in the real world. But we just want to show you that every officer carries this with them as kind of a reminder and a way to try and address different things they do on patrol. Again, this plan, Chief Anderson had us work on a tight turnaround. We were able to implement it starting November 2nd. So we're 1 month into it. Like I said, we've seen some successes, and we've seen some outcomes. I think it's going to be responsive to the needs of the community, and we look forward to your input on it.
No, I thought that was good. Yeah, obviously you want to talk a little bit about downtown. You have some stats on going to the whole lot. One information that shows what we've done over a period of time. Just in the month of November, you'll see that we've had for our bike and foot patrol, we have 546 contacts, which means we've been really active in the community. And over for the year, we've had 5,000, over 5,000. But if you look at it year to date, we've just been we've been improving exponentially within the area. But the reality is just how people feel. And the truth of the matter is there's a concern about what's taking place downtown. So that is the bigger crux of where we're making adjustments. We do have things that we think will improve. We're going to look at a kind of a business partnership. Our city administrator has allowed for us to allocate funding for us to use really, non-police like a security type. We're working now through RFP to identify a partner that will be downtown. They'll be walking around, they'll be working with us. I've identified some funding on our end to carve out who will lead those individuals. So we have that all in place. So we have someone on the police side that's a retired police officer that kind of understands things, but are not aggressive. They looked at their background, community engagement, working downtown, walking beats, things of that nature. But for the most part, we're going to be working with our partners that'll be kind of security, and they'll be unarmed. They'll be the eyes and ears, but they'll be addressing and helping us address some of the quality of life issues. We think that's going to work. We'll be able to get more coverage with that, with our police officers working in tandem. And then just really, I have been to numerous meetings and talking a lot to the community. It's a balance. I mean, we have the numbers with respect to crime. We have the numbers with respect to what we've done here recently with arrests. That's not really what our overall goal is. But I can tell you that they have increased. But so have the resources with respect to how we've been helping the community. So all in all, there's a lot of resources we are providing. It's been pretty balanced. This has been with us since November 2nd. We think that things are going trending in the right direction. On December 6th, December 12th, we have a meeting with the BIS, many of the community members that are going to be talking to us. They have a new committee that they work together to bring together two entities from downtown. There'll be many of them there. They asked for us to meet with them. We're going to listen to them. And we're going to hear what they have to say. And then we'll modify our plan as such. But I'm sure there'll be some things that we'll have to make them aware of. Some of the individuals may have they may feel like we should take a different approach to the individuals that we come in contact downtown. Our approach is going to always be with respect and dignity. So we're not going to modify that approach, but we will increase our involvement downtown with an emphasis on getting people help. That is truly our plan. And if we see someone committing or hear someone committing an actual crime where someone is harmed, we have those QR codes where we see it. We will act on those, but we rarely see those types of things happen. So it's really, the community needs to feel that the police department is involved. That's what we really think. Those are our thoughts.
It sounds like this has been a little over a month now since this was launched, with the Everbeat and things like that. What is being done to kind of promote the changes more broadly so that there's more awareness of that? It doesn't look like there was kind of a press release either through the city page or the police page. I know that as I'm having conversations with community members, this is something that I included in my newsletter that's going out, but most folks want to know what we're doing and don't seem to have that awareness. And I think also awareness can sometimes be a deterrent as well. And so I wonder if there's any kind of promotional plan around some of the changes that are happening to make sure that folks know that we're taking this seriously.
We will increase the promotional plans, especially within the department. We have been doing some things, probably not enough. Each month or a couple times a month, we have a feature on the beat officer that's been going out on social media explaining what their role is and what they're actually doing. Social media, we've been putting a lot of things out. I am also having a conversation with the chief. We've had one, we're planning to do more now. We put that out on social media. We put that out to the media. But we can increase our efforts. But I think specifically what you're talking about is the plan. We're talking about things we're doing. We will put more information out in terms of here's what the plan is.
I appreciate all the changes that have been working towards and presentations last night. It's hard not to kind of bring into this, my memory of this conversation as well. But obviously mentioned increased contact, also leading to increased arrest, but it's also, some desires to get folks the resources and support they need. Of course, this is all simultaneously happening at a point in time where we are seeing massive federal cuts in resources decline for the types of services that we need. And so I'm just curious how, from the lens of APD, being able to report out on information about what our community needs and gaps are. You're going to have a certain set of information that you're going to be able to need to provide that around, this is a dire need in our community. There's multiple of them, but how is there any way that you're considering being able to track this and be able to share this information out to us and to the county?
Definitely tracking is, I'll start there. Obviously, we've launched the official website with our data transparency, and it is one that we see is when we look across the country, we have one of the better ones right now in our agency. And so we will be implementing what's called a CompStat meeting, or we call it a Arbor stat meeting, which will be happening every month. And then we're going to bring the community into some of them. And that'll be the accountability piece for the entire department, because we're going to lay out all the crimes and people are going to see what plans are. So we will put that out to the community, and we'll have it inside the Justice Center, right in the basement there, right in the basement for the front entrance. So people will be able to come and see. They'll see exactly what we're doing. I think it's briefly about obviously the concerns with our federal response. I am working with a team of leaders throughout the country. We're asking our city administrator, some of our staff, to come together. They're going to talk about the response with respect to what the National Guard can and can't do, what federal agencies can and can't do, and what our response should be with respect to what they're doing. That meeting is being coordinated now in concert with other agencies across the country. I don't know the exact response yet. I want to hear what they're going to say, so we got a couple more want to understand it. That's where we need to get a little bit better. I think the other piece was just kind of.
Well, and when I was thinking about national response, I think there is that national response as well, that is relatively broad, thinking more when it comes to housing, food, human services cuts.
Again, I think, Chief Dennis has really brought a broader idea of how we can use CompStat to be more productive.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is bringing in not just the police department personnel within our building, but other staff from throughout the city, and maybe small section purpose. And so I think that will help us, because those kind of things will be identified. So let's say, for example, our DRT officers are out there dealing with these lists of, people that they frequently interact with, say that they recognize food scarcity as an issue because maybe funding has been cut. And I think that is something they'll be able to bring back to the CompStat. And that's, by the chief's design, the more people we bring into those type of CompStat meetings, the more we can share and resource needs like that, I think is what you're asking, would be identified and shared appropriately.
Yeah, I think it might most profoundly get served in those, interactions.
If you envisions a meeting in which we're all sitting around this table, so it's not just police, you have social workers, you have other people there, and we're all talking about the problems. And now we're collaborating to determine what is the best response to that problem. So we're all there at one time, and consistently developing a plan. We have an accountability mechanism. We're coming back, we're looking at what we're doing, what's working, it's evolving, it's very collaborative. And that's what we believe will be very highly successful here.
DJ McGuire opened by saying, this is evidence-based. I just wanted to give a little piece on that because, in college, I talked a little bit was working with a nonprofit that did outreach in the subway system in New York City. And their system was to make a list of the top 10 or 20 people that they wanted to get into housing, and they wanted to get services because they thought if they were still out and unhoused in the subway system, they were likely to have just terrible outcomes. And so in Ann Arbor, the most likely place that people are going to have these interactions outside of our specific service providers and places like the Wellness and the Breakfast Program, outside of that, it is probably the police. And I think it's really good for officers to know who they're dealing with, that there's like a long history, that people have good days and bad days. I think that's a big piece of the conversations I've had since I started on council and check-ins with police is like, people, the nature of these conditions is that people have different times where they're experiencing mental events. And I remember one time you also said, sort of anecdotally, officers can offer people rides to treatment, or, you know, they can tell that somebody hasn't done their monthly shot that can help with some of the symptoms of mental disorders. So I think it is an expansive use of police resources, and I think it does connect into resources like Hawk, which is getting people into screening with social workers, and it is helping to judge the acuity of their situation. So I think the evidence supports this gladly.
I appreciate that, and you mentioned that to us early on, and we have been bringing that to fruition. One of the things that I am trying to do as we talk about evidence-based policing is not, just for me, is not giving the employees too many vernaculars in terms of getting them to understand it. I clearly understand focus deterrence, like you just named a whole bunch of them that I've actually used, but we're not ready for that yet. So what we've done for evidence-based strategy as we bring this group together is I found out that we don't have a problem-solving method. So you don't have an evidence-based problem-solving method. You don't have the you know how to resolve problems. So I introduced to our organization a SARA model. It is a design-proven model that works across the country. And then I brought in some leaders to train on the SARA model, but we still have to have people digest it. So when you're talking about the things that we're doing, bringing the people to the table, it is a focused deterrence on individuals. It is bringing resources together, and it is you getting the police officers to have an evidence-based solving strategy with SARA. And it moves in one direction, it scans and analyzes and provides a response, and then you assess it and it goes back around. But we are learning evidence-based models now. They'll work. We see them very successful. One other thing that I would say, we had the training in this room here. Our police officers learned when they went through the training, there was templates that they can look at the templates where they've actually addressed issues with unhoused in Seattle, all over the country. So now they have that open model template that they can bring in. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They just have them there, and it's new. So we have them moving in that direction.
Anything else?
I would just say thank you as somebody who pushed for us to have this conversation to hear more, and I know that we implemented it in kind of as cold weather was coming in. I think it will also be, you know, interesting to see how this continues to work when it gets warmer and we see more folks in downtown. You know, I know particularly in the, you know, south or in the State Street, North University area, you know, there were probably a lot of folks who really could benefit from being contacted and being connected to services, where, you know, I think students were feeling unsafe or uncomfortable, at least because they were, you know, stepping over folks who were sleeping across the sidewalk or something like that. And just having somebody who would actually like check in on that person rather than step over them, and things like that, and connect them to resources they might need in that moment, I think will be really helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. DC, thanks. Mr. Conley.
After last night, not a whole lot of updates. Yeah, right.
Ideas 6 through 19.
Yes. There is that where someone says, I know you said it, but how did I get to be number 6 when I should have been number 5?
Yeah.
We'll discuss that later. So item 1 is the university is at the point where they are going to bring on the planning team for their own thought about connecting. So I'm having discussions with them because I need to figure out how we need to interface with the planning process. So is that 1 or 2 people? Do I need to have a project team? Not sure yet, but we certainly want to be, we need to be involved from the beginning so it doesn't progress to a point, and then here we come saying something that they hadn't heard, blah, blah, blah. So, more on that as it evolves. I suspect they will be public about the firm they picked. That's their thing to do, not mine. The second thing is in January, and I may have mentioned this in one of my previous updates, we are hosting a breakfast at Cobblestone. We've invited Ann Arbor Public School leadership and some key logistical people. It's the first time we've ever done that before, and we probably will try to put some publicity around it, where we are asking them to share with us projects, construction-related projects that will happen around schools during 2026. And we will share with them construction projects we plan to do on corridors leading to and from school buildings. Because one of the things we heard from parents is, I'm not upset that you're doing a project, but because I didn't know you were doing it, I'm not sure how to get to school. I'm not sure how to get my kid. I'm not sure where the detours are. So we want to do a little more coordinating with the school system so that we can both, even if it's separate, we can both message out a little better to the public on here's what's going to happen and here's when it's going to happen and here's how you're going to be impacted by it. Mariah is in charge of coordinating our participation in the breakfast, and then we'll see how that goes. Item number 3, snow teams will be out tonight, overnight, because of what is being forecast. So far so good. It seems like we're getting a little more snow earlier in the season than we did last year. We had a number of incidents last year that was basically cold, mostly, not that much snow. This seems a little different. Hopefully it won't continue like this throughout the whole season, or one, we'll have worn out crews, and 2, we're going to spend a lot of money. Last thing for me is having discussions with the new director at Delanus. They are contemplating finding a second location for another facility. And they may want to talk to us about participating on the capital side. I have no idea where, but what I have shared with Nicole is that the kind of conversation we should be having, we're in a stronger position on the capital side to help you acquire a building versus giving you money every month to run one. So when I know more, I'll come back to you. She's asked for her financial person to join us, so we're going to do that. Is that soon? Next week, before vacation. So details to follow. That's all I have for updates.
One piece on the campus connector, and I think there's lessons in, at least in Word 2 from, and I think probably in Word 2 about when a project is being pursued from public schools, and we get a lot of inundated with questions that end up being kind of legal about whether the city can deny certain permits, and essentially asking kind of what leverage the city has over in this case, it was over the AAPS to, I guess, change a site plan or something like that. And I think with the campus connector, I think we'll just need to be clear on what part U of M has the sole authority for, that they're going through state agencies to get approval for, and then what areas where I guess the city is giving some that input, and what I guess the public wants to feel like, yes, what community benefit we're getting. So I don't know, that's just I think that's way down the line, but when that happens, I've noticed that in the past, there's just been big community galvanizing moments. The last time Michigan built a bus turnaround station in Ward 2, that was a huge moment where community was demanding a lot of different changes and a lot of insight on the process, so I'm hoping we can be kind of prepared for that.
Yeah, Councilmember, we're going into it with the mindset that we've got to be kind of nerdy in the weeds on things like intersections. We don't have any leverage over what the terrain looks like,
Mhm.
how, all of that.
No more.
But where the city comes into play is you're going to be crossing intersections across whatever the route is, and that's where the coordination has to come into play. And what, if any, infrastructure impacts there are regarding that. And then as someone who's gone through 2 cities that actually had, moving through it, you've got to figure out how all of that connects together. How does it interface? So cars and the connector, pedestrians, et cetera, they're going to spend, big money to plan this thing. Because you can't do what they're talking about without that. Our leverage is limited, and they know it, and we know it. But if it's not working properly and you've got chaos, and everybody is something. So mindset's good. The positive thing is we've been talking prior to this. We're talking now. Being in on the front end is essential. Coming in late is where it's always ugly.
Yeah, more on the connector piece of things. I'm glad that we're in on the front end of the conversation. And again, yeah, like where does this intersect with the city? I don't know if the information that I got was accurate from people in my inboxes about our corner, but we have a corner of the Arbor. Is that accurate?
No, they put out a public.
Okay, thank you. But to have that.
It was a maybe a year ago.
Huh?
It was a maybe.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so, but in terms of, what I understand in terms of what is envisioning in terms of the connector is more an elevated sort of situation. However, simultaneously, we are having looking at our multi-lane roads. We've had conversations around wiring MDOT corridors. These are, we consider the ability to potentially operate on Huron, Washtenaw, and Plymouth and utilize a lane of city infrastructure. How might that shift their investments and be able to also simultaneously help us accomplish our own goals with acquisition of certain corridors that we might have. So I don't know if we're having those types of nuanced conversations with how this connection might be able to be made across campuses, nor do I just don't know what their vision is in terms of what they want to connect and where they want to connect, and if that's even feasible. But it does still allow certain conversations that might play out.
Just a quick question about the cobblestone meeting. Is that a staff meeting only? Okay, no electeds on either side.
No.
Okay.
That's that.
Yep.
Yeah. No.
There's that.
Anything else? Thank you.
My turn. Let's start with some good news. So, if you recall.
Yeah.
It's good news and then not bad, and then news.
Go on.
So if you recall, we had been concerned that some city trees were dying because of gas leakage from DTE pipes, and DTE was unwilling to take responsibility. So we had hired our own consultant expert to drive around the city and document where there was gas leakage. We wrote to DTE and said, we think you've killed these trees and you owe us about $84,000. We couldn't take that to the MPSC because it's not a rate issue. It would end up being a civil litigation, but they're paying $84,000. They're, saying we don't agree, blah, 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 3-page letter, we'll pay $84,000. So that's the good news. The FCC is, the Federal Communications Commission, is soliciting comments on how easy municipalities or difficult municipalities make it for internet service providers to, enhance connectivity across the country. It has come to our attention that a company by the name of Crown Castle has submitted comments to the FCC, specifically naming Ann Arbor as having made it difficult for them. They wanted to put some fiber down in the stadium area, and we have a moratorium. We say you can't cut a road if it's just been repaved, and that had just been repaved. So it's not like we were making it difficult for them. We were just saying, we just paved this. And we were still willing to work with them, but somehow they've singled out Ann Arbor. So we are going to file our own comment. And the deadline for that is December 17th. And the reason I think this is important is because, well, for one, Ann Arbor's name should not be out there without having responded, but also the FCC is looking to put shot clocks on municipalities to issue permits and do things like that. And I think we need to retain our independence. So the comment, and I will definitely share it, it's still being drafted. The comment will not only explain how Ann Arbor was willing to work with Crown Castle, but will also say something about independence and the ability to govern our own roads. So we're working on that. It just came to my attention about like a week ago. So I will update all council on that. So that's just news, not bad news, right? And I guess the third item on my agenda is I'm letting Milton do all the hard work, and then when his evaluation goes superbly, I'll go next.
You don't want to use me?
I might, yeah, I'll see how it looks. That's it for me.
I didn't. Okay.
I'll see, you know.
Any questions? Awesome. That's the contact information on the city website.
Okay. All right, this is a next step in an ongoing effort to improve how we communicate with constituents and the public. And also how we just generally try to improve efficiency and make the job of a council member, more efficient, so we can focus on the good work that we're doing and waste less time on things that are not helping anyone. So as council members, we all know, especially over the past couple of years, we have seen just a dramatic uptick in the amount of mass emails that we're getting to our council email. We have a council email system that really hasn't changed very much in many, many years. And we get not only emails directly to us, we get emails filtered to an other inbox, we get emails filtered to quarantine, we get emails to an all council email. It's a lot for busy council members who also have full-time jobs to manage. And a lot, unfortunately, what happens is critical emails from staff, from, consultants, from partner agencies, from constituents get buried, they get lost in the shuffle. We desperately need an overhaul of our system. And right now, some of the issues that are causing the problems are the fact that, we have publicly visible emails that are the primary source of engagement. We have an all council email address, which is the primary source of engagement. And, you know, that is not best practice anymore, in how the municipalities, government agencies, get feedback from the public. And it's, I think, you know, in talking with a lot of my colleagues, there is a strong feeling, that we'd like to try something, a little more modern. So, forms are now standard practice. Forms can, you know, block bots, they reduce spam, they ensure that every message includes essential details, they simplify routing, they improve accessibility, and they support better tracking. And for that reason, there are a number of council members that would like to move to a system where we're primarily getting information via forms and providing individual emails and phone numbers as a secondary mode of contact. So I've been talking with city staff about this. We did create a form, and then there were some council members a couple of council members that had, you know, some questions about it. And so we backed away a little bit and thought we'd bring this to admin, get a better sense of direction on it, and have it come as more of a formal request to staff from admin to try to find a solution that would help us better, you know, again, the goals are, you know, better routing of constituent email, better routing of staff email and partner agencies, and elimination of spam and, you know, this mass advocacy, you know, sending that to a place where we can look at it, but where it's not burying really important constituent emails that we need to attend to. So recommendations that I'm proposing are that we have, you know, a single accessible structured web form for council communication, that we place the form prominently as the primary contact option, that we move email and phone numbers to a secondary section, that we remove the all council email address and replace it with a group form so people can still contact all of council, but that it goes to a form that can be routed appropriately, and that we, if we do all this, provide obviously public communication and explanation as to why we're making these changes. Thoughts?
So, I appreciate what you're trying to do, because certainly my inbox is a problem. However, and I didn't, you know, ultimately, I thought the form worked out okay once there were a few changes made with it. I really strongly feel that that phone numbers are beneficial. It is a quick and easy way for people to get a hold of a council member, and I don't think it has to be something that everybody wishes to have there, but it's a lot quicker than an email. And, you know, as we're kind of encouraging the city organization to be more responsive and be able to, you know, tackle different things, you know, I think that for me, I would much prefer a phone call, honestly, than an email. But
I think you stand alone on that.
No, I understand. But,
Really?
but yeah, but I think the point is that I think people should probably be able to decide.
Yeah. So I like having a phone number there. I do think that it became challenging for folks when, you know, it depends on maybe where you're coming, you know, if people want to reach out to their city representative, sometimes they recognize that there are two representatives who are serving on a commission. And so how do you reach out to both of those simultaneously? Or, you know, I mean, there are problems with forms that mean that you have limited access to your representatives and to your government. And I think that's problematic. Maybe what I think we could actually handle some of this with a little bit of training on how to utilize our the incredible functions of Microsoft Outlook, which I did not do as well as I could, but, you know, you can filter certain things in certain ways. And, you know, so I personally think that it is helpful for people to do, and, you know, I don't love getting 100 emails on a subject, because it does but I also think that being able to petition your government, is fundamentally something you should be able to do. And I think you should be able to know that there's an A2 council one and not have to go through a form. I hate forms.
Well, okay, yeah, and so, I mean,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think some of it, so I think that the issue when the form came out, I think, was that when we were getting in there, and I think like these were the items that were corrected that you had kind of alluded to, like it came with some A2 automation, you know, like the subject line of the form didn't made it actually seem more like spam, but then I think we fixed some of it. I think there was also a fix that helped when you responded to the form, then you're responding with their email. You're responding through Outlook. So you're responding and the person is receiving the response to the form as an email. Like, so at that point, they have your email. At that point, you're,
Yeah.
So I think that was good. And I think that made it kind of seamless, the transition between, one thing I was poking around at like random cities. I mean, one of the things is it might help. I think all of our emails are out like in public now, and so or like it just for the scrapers and like spam type things. The fact that our email is just fully listed means it's already kind of the spam is as bad as it's ever going to be. But some of these communities have, when you click contact, instead of going to a form, it just opens up the email application of like your computer and just, or phone, and starts an email with that address. And I think there's something valuable to not listing the email address, but then that link that a user is using to click and start an email. It's a little less, I guess, restrictive or feeling official than a form, but it does, I think there is an IT, you know, I'm not an IT, but I do think there's something that it improves because it's not listing the full @a2gov.org on the website that can be picked up like by automated processes. So I think there's like a middle there, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess for my 2 cents, I also do not mind having a phone number out. I will say our peers where, you know, the county commissioners and others are promoting they have a county cell phone. Not all of our colleagues have that.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have that. I don't mind that people have my personal cell phone. I understand that folks who have young kids and others may not want their personal cell phone ringing off the hook 24/7. So I think that should be optional. But the one thing that I will say that I appreciate about the form itself is that a huge chunk of the communications that I receive do not come to me directly. I would say 70+% of them are not being emailed to me directly. Certain constituents know to email me directly. But most of the communications are sent either through mass email lists that we're on, through our all council email, or through somebody who just sends an all council email about a constituent issue, provides very little contact information. We have no idea where they live. If they're in the city, we just had one of those where we're trying to figure out like, okay, what's your street address? We're trying to figure out if you live here. A form can capture critical information that makes responding to constituents much more efficient and effective. It allows us to figure out which of us should respond, but it also makes sure that, you know, I don't have to reach back out to the constituent and play 2 days of phone tag when they say, hey, the light post across from my house is out. I have their address now because there's a form. So those types of things I think are beneficial. The spam example is a real concern to me. I actually shared with staff, you know, my experience when I worked in the state legislature was very different in that we actually had a district inbox and we actually had a personal email that we could filter between in Microsoft Office, because that would allow staff to communicate directly with the individual and they would get that and it wouldn't be bogged down by communications and newsletters and all of the hundreds of emails we get every day. Because I had an important message from the attorneys about a court case I might get summoned as a witness in for the city. That came the same day that we got thousands of emails that were directed actually to the university that our city council emails. And so like not until several days later, when I got a phone call from Attorney Reiser, did I even know that I'd received this, because I hadn't worked my way all the way through the thousands of emails in my inbox yet. So I think there's a definite need in my mind for us to overhaul. I've been someone who from day one does not necessarily, there's not a mechanism for you to email your entire state legislature. There's not a mechanism for you to email your entire, like, we represent districts. And so, you know, if there's nothing stopping anyone from taking every single email and sending a message to everyone on council, but I think we have in some ways made it too easy for bad actors to add us to lists that then are filling our and clogging our inbox with things that aren't actually city business.
Yeah, and I mean, I just want to reiterate, what we're talking about now is we're not talking about eliminating phone numbers. So keeping them in some capacity, you know, keeping those individual emails in some capacity, such as trying to put the forms front and center so that we can collect that critical information first. And what I didn't say, and I just want to add, is as we iterate this, when you had, and Chris, I think you'll appreciate this, once you start to build a database of form content, you can start to track things. Like where are, as a council member, where are most of the concerns coming from in my district? I can look at we could eventually map, the contact that we're getting and the types, what are the issues? Citywide, I mean, that's really valuable information for staff. What are the types of things that we are continually being contacted about? So this type of modernization can lead to iterations that will only make us even more effective in the future.
Yeah, one piece on that, I think a good example is A2Fix-It, because some people use the mobile app, some people use the web application, but then individual departments still have like roads at a2gov.org, or they have police at a2gov. Like, or you can, A2Fix-It is such a valuable tool because you're doing the spatial, you're clicking it in on a map, you're submitting your form, you're dropping down to select your type of issue. That's a lot of what we were able to capture in the form, or what we were able to capture in the form. Because, like, for example, if people don't put their address, like, just asking people to put their address is much easier on a form. Like, then when you're firing off an email, you might just forget, and then we're figuring out what ward you're in. And so I think there's that standardization has really worked, and people have learned to use a tool when it comes to A2Fix-It. And then, like I said, once you're continuing the conversation, then you're using you're not getting rid of traditional email, you're using the traditional email. And then I think phone is I think that's just a matter of like personal, like, how best you work. I mean, and, or what's the best way you like to solve problems and issues. So I think it can, I think it'll work. I think just one thing of how we, I think it's even down to just how we display the email address on the website is like, there's better ways to do it. There's more secure ways to do it than other ways too. But I think the form, I think people will learn to use it, I guess. But
what I think I generally hear is this consensus that the current system is not meeting all uses, all needs, and that some reform can be beneficial both for our project management and our ability to respond to consistency. Perhaps our member and whoever else wants offline can come with a proposal that maybe has some iterations within it that then we can evaluate next meeting. You need more? You need something precise from us, or are you watching and listening and judging?
I can't just judge what you said. We need a consensus of what council wants.
Mm-hmm.
Where we would struggle is if 4 members of council want X and 3 members want Y and 2 members want something else. That's problematic on our end.
You kind of want a coherent proposal from this committee.
Yeah, how how do you want us to handle your
Well,
pages?
well, I know, but I think where we're struggling here is we are not IT experts. We are not experts in like best practices for communication. We have a problem. I would like for staff to come with a proposal to us based on what we're
And it is kind of.
describing as an issue.
The trend.
I can't design a system.
We can do that. We can give you something
Yeah.
to react.
That would be great.
My only point is,
Yeah, I think there's some different opinions. I think you're also hearing some different opinions around the table around what our preferences are. I think that came to some degree, kind of.
Its proposal could include some, options, not just for the proposal, but rather also include some customization, like some minor customization. For example, phone number, yes, no.
Right.
Email, click, stated.
What I will say about that is, I actually really hate that.
Well,
Only because it often immediately pops up Outlook, which I don't use outside
Yeah,
of the city.
yeah, she don't.
And then
We got
also,
budget later.
yeah, and then also, doesn't capture the information.
All right, thank you. Council. I should have declared that conversation over. Forgive me. Council, committee calendar.
Would you like to meet at the same time? Monthly, second Tuesday of every month, 4:15, basement conference room. Let's meet.
Seems to workish.
Yep.
Motion to approve calendar.
Moved by Bettina, higher discussion. All in favor? Opposed?
So we'll see you January 13th.
Opposed. Is there any other information directly in business?
no.
All right. Public comment.
Hey, Nancy Griswold, I will be in San Francisco talking to some city staff this week. In response to Councilmember Donna Ackman's question about what do some of the cities who have reduced their pedestrian crash rate. How are they different from the city of New? Does that make sense? I should have said it last, but anyway, okay, what are they doing that we're not doing, and what are we doing that they're not doing? And we do have a new crosswalk ordinance, but it got me thinking about how we actually operate. And one thing that I believe contributes to the problem is that we have council members who are making technical statements that are really reserved for licensed professionals. And when these statements are made and they're somewhat misleading or incorrect, it puts staff in a very difficult position. It's not just transportation, it's also planning. We have licensed planners in the state of Michigan. And so I think that's something that needs to be looked at. Because I know we had some training when I was on the school board and also when I was on the city council about exactly what the framework was for a policymaker. And I see how you struggled about this communication package as well. I mean, you're not really the technical people, but you're trying to make a decision, and then it was referred back to staff, which is the right thing to do. But sometimes we're not referring things back to staff in the transportation area, in the planning area. I also want to mention that the crosswalk miscommunication is very disturbing. When the crosswalk ordinance was originally passed, it included the word approaching. The crash rate went up, and so council changed that language to very specific language, the curb line, or the ramp leading to the crosswalk. I see the police now are using the word approaching. I'm hearing on WEMU the term approaching. I'm seeing it in MLive, and that needs to be corrected because you know the word approaching causes confusion and contributes to an increase in crash rate.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone online?
Here, I don't see anyone with their hands raised. If you wish to speak, please press *9 to raise your hand. I don't see anyone with their hands raised.
Public comments closed, then motion to adjourn, please, move by, Regina Hire, discussion, all in favor, opposed, adjourn. Where's President Ray?
Make it fair.
Is here?
Yes, it is. It is here.
When? She said at 5:30?
5:45,
Oh, okay,
so they had time to set up for you.
okay, clear the decks,
That's your,
clear the Central Administration.
Yes.
in case topics ran out.
Yeah.
They can